Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online Regulation D VGC ladder in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and provide live commentary as I go. In this video, I'm going to be trying out a really strong hyper offense team featuring Kleavor. Kleavor is one of the brand new Pokemon from Legends Arceus, and it can do a ton of damage with a signature attack in Stone Axe, which allows you to set up Stealth Rock as well as X-Scissor. This set also has Rocky Helmet with Water Tera to really punish opposing Water Urshifus. So, as always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team, but if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps down in the description below. And thanks so much as always for joining me. If you enjoy, I'd really appreciate it if you consider leaving a like in the video or subscribing to the channel. It really helps out a ton. Today's video is sponsored by Honkai Impact 3rd, a 3D cross-platform anime action game made by Hoyoverse, the creators of Genshin Impact. Honkai is easily one of the best mobile games I've ever played. Between the incredible storytelling, music, art, animation, and action, it's a ton of fun. The game comes with several ways to play, such as mini-games to full-scale expansions and open-world exploration, and incorporates several different game genres. Now's the perfect time to get into Honkai Impact 3rd. The game recently released the V6.7 update, which comes with new plots, characters, events, outfits, and activities. I'm personally excited to try out Kira, a new character who can provide combat buffs to her teammates. If you're interested, download Honkai Impact 3rd for free and experience the V6.7 update now. Check out the pinned comment or description below for the link and use code Kira now to get tons of free rewards. New players get even more in-game bonuses. Thanks again to Honkai and Hoyoverse for sponsoring today's video. As always, rental and paste for the team as well as the original team creator are linked down in the description below. And question of the day, I want to know what your early impressions of Regulation D are. So far, I've been enjoying it a lot, but I feel like I enjoy the start of any brand new format. This team specifically was created by Zhe Zhang, who was one of the best players in the 2022 VGC season, winning the Milwaukee Regional Championships and getting top 8 at the North American International Championships. He had a 80% plus win rate with this team on High Ladder Showdown, and it is a really strong hyper offense team, as I mentioned, featuring Kleavor. So let's first of all talk about Kleavor. This Pokemon just does a lot of damage. It's got one of the highest base attack stats in the game, and its ability Sharpness is really great because it increases slicing moves by 1.5. So you've got a really cool attack in Stone Axe, which is 65 base power, 90% accuracy, but sets up Stealth Rock on the opposing side. Now, in VGC, Stealth Rock is not a very common move because it takes a turn of setup, but Kleavor can do a lot of damage with it, and there's so many Pokemon that are actually weak to Rock right now in the format. Tornadus, Zapdos, Thundurus, Chi-Yu, just to name a couple. So being able to get a knockout on those Pokemon while also setting up Stealth Rock is incredible. Also, there's so many Pokemon that like carrying Focus Sash right now in the format, so being able to break those sashes through the move is really nice. Otherwise, you've got X-Scissor as your other main attack, and then Feint and Quick Guard as utility. Quick Guard is really nice because it protects you from priority attacks. The one thing to keep in mind is that it won't necessarily protect you from Fake Out. For example, I went up against a Rillaboom while practicing with this team. The Rillaboom was just faster, and they were able to click Fake Out before I click Quick Guard. So keep that in mind. And then Feint is just really nice in breaking through protects. It's a really big deal with this team in particular because it's so aggressive and offensive. And so often your opponents will try to protect while stalling out some of your firepower, and Feint is able to just get a big knockout. So the Kleavor here, really bulky. And you've got Rocky Helmet and Water Tera because Tornadus plus Urshifu Water is one of the most common combos. We actually have that on this team as well. But a lot of people will just be like, I'm just going to Surging Strikes the Kleavor and knock it out. Well, if you go for Water Tera plus the Rocky Helmet, the Urshifu just takes so much damage while you don't take very much damage in return. So this is a really cool utility Pokemon that does a ton of damage, can set up Stealth Rocks, can prevent you from priority moves thanks to Quick Guard, while also just being able to chip away. And Rock and Bug is just pretty unique coverage in itself. The rest of the team, I'd say, is fairly standard. You've got Tornadus. This Tornadus is nice in the sense that it's an ultra bulky set. I think when people naturally gravitate towards Tornadus, they first think, oh, I'm just going to go max speed and then max special attack, for example. The reality is that Tornadus doesn't really do that much damage anyway, and I should actually rephrase that. It does a lot of damage. It's got a great base special attack, but it's like having max special attack EVs versus 76 doesn't really change things that much. The main point about Tornadus is to just set up Tailwind and provide disruption with Taunt as well. So Bleak Windstorm, really nice move. Obviously hits both of your opponent's targets but can't miss. And the main idea is that it's not the most consistent offensive attack anyway, so why not invest more in bulk to allow Tornadus to, say, always survive Surging Strikes from Urshifu. So it's a little bit bulkier and a little bit slower. You've got Dragonite and Chien-Pao. This duo has been so good in Regulation C. It's not gone anywhere. It feels so powerful in this format as well. And very standard sets, just Jolly Max and Jolly Max for both. Ice Tera here to do more damage with Ice Spinner in particular. And Dragonite here running what feels like a pretty classic Dragonite set now. I mean, obviously you can run like Aerial Ace or Tera Blast if you're flying Tera, for example. But the normal Extreme Speed combo is just so good. Finally, you've got Water Urshifu. This is Adamant rather than Jolly since you've got Choice Scarf anyway. So Tornadus and Urshifu, obviously an incredible duo. And the fun thing about running Scarf on Urshifu is you can commit to some other attacks. There's actually no Aqua Jet here, which is pretty interesting. But part of the idea is you're already so fast anyway. Are you really going to be needing to click Aqua Jet? Whereas U-Turn gives you some nice utility in pivoting out. And Ice Spinner can actually get rid of Ice Terrain. Or not Ice Terrain. Can get rid of Terrain, which is obviously really valuable. And deal super effective damage into certain Pokemon like Amoonguss. Finally, you've got Flutter Mane. Now, the thing about any hyper offense team is that you're often going to be really weak to Trick Room, so Flutter Mane exists on this team to circumvent that problem. With Trick Room and Imprison, you can lead Flutter Mane into things like Cresselia and just try to deny them Trick Room with Imprison. You also have Ghost Tera here rather than Fairy Tera because this Flutter Mane is less about dealing maximum damage with Fairy type attacks and more about providing utility. For example, if your opponent leads Iron Hands plus Cresselia and they just go for a Heavy Slam onto Flutter Mane, well, that's a disaster, right? So it's sort of the reason why this Flutter Mane has so much defense investment as well, so you can survive a lot of those common physical attacks. And Ghost Tera just allows you to survive for a little bit longer instead of just fainting from a super effective Steel type attack. That's everywhere right now. You know, you've got, for example, the Ting-Lu with Heavy Slam, you've got Iron Hands with Heavy Slam, Heatran with Heavy Slam, Hisuian Guja with Heavy Slam, so you kind of want to cover for all of those. That's it for a quick breakdown, but in terms of ways to play with the team, I think Dragonite Chien-Pao, obviously a really good lead. Honestly, Chien-Pao with anything is a really good lead, but Chien-Pao, Urshifu, for example, Flutter Mane. I think with this team, any combo works. To me, the first question I ask is, do I need to bring Tornadus? Because I think Tornadus is one of the main factors, right? If you bring Tornadus, you do lose a little bit of offense. So I ask myself, do I want to bring Tornadus? Does my opponent have a lot of speed, and do I want to outpace them? If the answer is no, then I often just leave Tornadus on the bench because there's so much priority and just so much fast offense with the rest of the team. And then if I eliminate Tornadus, then it's just any combination. I typically look for a really good lead that can just like dish out a lot of damage without too much risk in return. Kleavor is a lead I often like because being able to set up that Stealth Rock early is really valuable in a lot of matchups. So I actually often ask myself, hey, is Kleavor a good Pokemon to lead here? And often it is. Sometimes your opponent might just like not take much damage from Stone Axe or X-Scissor. And if that's the case, you got to think twice about bringing it because switching with this team is really difficult. So if you have a bad lead matchup, you're often going to be really behind. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But try to think about how you can play around Chien-Pao's defense drops in particular with so many physical attackers. So in terms of weaknesses, the first thing I'll call out is with this being a hyper offense team, you really don't have as much ability to switch very easily. So like I just called out, if you lead poorly, you're often going to be in a really tough spot with this team. In addition, this team has a lot of physical attackers, right? And only one real special attacker in Flutter Mane. So if your opponents have a lot of like very physically defensive Pokemon that you can't KO super quickly with these Pokemon, that can be pretty scary. In terms of typings, if you look at what types that we have on this team, like nothing actually resists Fairy. So a well-positioned Flutter Mane, for example, especially if it has good speed control next to it or a good protection next to it, like Redirection, for example, can also certainly cause some issues. This team also has a lot of priority. You obviously have Extreme Speed, Aqua Jet, Sucker Punch, and the Urshifu actually here doesn't have priority, but with Chien-Pao and Dragonite, especially Extreme Speed, having ways to get around that priority, I think, can be really scary. And Trick Room still is a big problem. Even though you have Trick Room and Imprison on this Flutter Mane, if Flutter Mane just goes down early and your opponent sets up Trick Room, you're often going to be in a really, really difficult position. And the last thing to note is that this team really doesn't have too many protects. Flutter Mane is protectless, Urshifu is protectless, Kleavor is protectless, Dragonite is protectless. And I've had games, I think, where I basically lead, realize that I'm not in a very good position, but then be like, oh, I can't just like protect and switch out very easily, and then things can snowball out of control as well. So yeah, you can take advantage of kind of the lack of the bulk. I think with this team, if you're able to move first before these Pokemon are able to move first, you're going to get a huge advantage as well. It's just generally pretty difficult to do that because of the existence of Tornadus alone on this team. So yeah, that's it for a couple of weaknesses. Let's get into these battles. Okay, they've got an Urshifu and a Tornadus, so I'm really hoping we can use Kleavor here and get some Rocky Helmet off. I think Kleavor in general is pretty sweet here. Being able to set up rocks early is nice. Maybe I do bring Tornadus in this one. So our Urshifu is really good if we clear the Amoonguss. The main problem is clearing the Amoonguss, right? Heatran also scares me a little bit. Dragonite, Chimpao, Urshifu, Flutter. I don't know. I kind of want to go Tornadus Kleavor here. I think that's pretty consistent. I think then Chimpao and then Urshifu. To me, Amoonguss is going to be the main concern here, but we do have Taunt on the Tornadus, and Bleak Wind Storm is obviously pretty good as well. So I'm just excited to lead Kleavor here. Hopefully just go for Stone Axe, set up the Stealth Rock, and then go from there. Oh, they led Tornadus Urshifu. Please, Surging Strikes my Kleavor. Please. There's nothing that would give me more joy than that. So because we're Mentorb here, even if they taunt me, we'll be okay. I don't mind going for a turn 1 Tera here. Stone Axe into the Tornadus slot. I guess I'm worried about them actually knocking out Tornadus with the double up. So like setting up my Tailwind here I think is pretty safe. Tera, Stone Axe. It's a debate of whether, like, which one of these 3 moves I want to click. Because if I taunt Tornadus and then I Tailwind next turn, that's good. But I think there's a world my opponent just doubles up onto Tornadus offensively turn 1, which is not good for me. So I'm just going to go for the safe Tailwind here and at least try to match their Tailwind. Because I've got Chimpao in the back, which obviously loves Tailwind. The main debate here is basically trying to stagger Tailwind by a turn. But, yeah, I'm not sure that's worth it, especially because this Tornadus is only 92 speed EVs. But we do move first. I do wonder if they are indeed just going for an attack rather than a Tailwind. Huh. Wow, they were actually slower, so that taunt play may have actually worked out. Yes! It went into Kleavor. Take the Rocky Helmet damage. 1 hit. 2 hits. 3 hits. Oh, beautiful. All right, if we hit this Stone Axe, it's such a nice turn 1 for us. Nice. Excellent. So we've knocked out Tornadus. We've matched their Tailwind. They've taken 50% of their health just from the Surging Strikes, and Stealth Rock is now set up, breaking any potential Focus Ashes. This is like the dream for Kleavor, honestly. The main sad thing is, yeah, I could have gone for Taunt instead of Tailwind, and if they weren't Mentor, then I would just set up Tailwind and probably completely sweep my opponent, but I was just a little bit worried in the scenario where they indeed doubled up into Tornadus. So Amoonguss actually comes out. Okay, so I'm curious if that has Mentor. I think a Tera from this certainly makes sense right now. X-Scissor, could Stone Axe. I don't know, I'm kind of down to just X-Scissor and Bleak Wind Storm, but I do think Taunting is a little bit more consistent here. Yeah, I'll go for Taunt. Oh, they just Rage Powder. Okay, well, that did not cover for Bleak Wind Storm. But I just want to make sure Amoonguss... Like, Amoonguss in my head was actually the biggest threat to my team here, so... No Mentor, beautiful, and they just Surging Strikes, and this Tornadus is really bulky, so it's like 162 HP, 172 defense, allows us to survive 3 hits of Surging Strikes, which is excellent. And X-Scissor. Oh my gosh, that's so much damage. Their Rocky Helmet. One thing to think about is actually switching this out so I get another Tailwind in the late game. But now that this is taunted, it's in a really bad spot. I think the debate is, like, what do they have in the back, right? Because nothing switches into Stone Axe, so while I can miss, it would punish, like, a Heatran switch in really heavily. So I'm down to just Stone Axe and Bleak Wind Storm right now. Oh, and they just end up forfeiting. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the power of Kleavor, especially because it baits your opponents into thinking, hey, like, you can just deal super effective damage into me, go for the Surging Strikes, but then you've got the Rocky Helmet. It just does so much damage, and Stealth Rock historically has not been a very common thing in competitive VGC, but to now have an attack that does a ton of damage and sets it up is the ideal scenario for it to thrive in this format. So, yeah, that turn 1 setup and that kind of lead matchup was basically perfect for Kleavor, and it could have even gone better for us, right? Like I mentioned, I could have tried to taunt their Tornadus. Just didn't expect their Tornadus to be slower than ours, because this is Bold Nature 92 speed EVs. A lot of people do like running max speed Tornadus, so I was like, I don't want to like play risky here, try to get fancy with a taunt, and then they just like double up to knock out my Tornadus, and then they set up their Tailwind. I was like, at least in this, by doing this, I guarantee that I match a potential Tailwind, knowing that I have Chiampao in the back, which matches up so well against their entire team. But that is what Kleavor can do with that Rocky Helmet, and you can see how much damage it did across the board throughout this game as well, being able to one-shot Tornadus and deal so much damage to Amoonguss with that X-Scissor as well. Okay, Tornadus, Arcanine, Azumarill, Amoonguss, Saboy, and Regidrago. This feels like a Flutter main game, although Azumarill and Arcanine are both pretty scary for that. Honestly, Weak Wind Storm is pretty good here just in general. Kleavor as a Water Tera is honestly appropriate response into the Azumarill, but I wonder if I want to lead it. What are scary? I mean, Tornadus could like Tailwind into Regidrago. I think that's scary. I think Dragonite with extreme speed pressure then is intriguing to me. So I'm thinking Dragonite Flutter lead, Kleavor in the back, and then Water Urshifu. I think having the Sash on Chiampao is really nice here. I will say it's a little bit weird to not bring my own Tornadus into this matchup because we have Taunt, Tailwind, and Mentor Herb. So I think in another world, leading Tornadus is also a very consistent strategy here. But I wanted to go with a little bit more offense, and part of the idea is, hey, I have Dragonite. So with extreme speed, I don't care if you set up Tailwind. That's kind of the theory. I also just really didn't want to lose to a Regidrago immediately. So yeah, they're going to go Sableye Regidrago. Flutter is in a pretty good spot. I've seen Steel Tera Regidrago. We went up against that in actually the previous video. Obviously, Fairy is looking very good into both of these right now. I'm worried about like Fake Out into Dragonite. It's a weird spot since I don't really have Protect here. I'm honestly down to click Outrage. And Moonblast into Regidrago. So there's the Tera, but who is it gonna be? And is it Steel Tera Drago, for example? Okay, it is Regidrago. Gonna be Steel. Yeah, so I guess Steel is the most common on this right now, which is good to know. Okay, Fake Out. Yep. You're not Choice Scarfed. Get Moonblast. Faster than Drago, and then Tera Blast. Yeah, so this set seems to be pretty common. That's really interesting. It makes sense, though, because otherwise you're just so Flutter main weak, and you don't want to be Flutter main weak in this format. We actually survive on 1 HP there. And that was a crit, too. Wow. This is not Focus Sash Flutter main, by the way. So I was not expecting that, but I can Stomping Tantrum you now, and then just Moonblast into Sableye. They might have Quash on Sableye, but you can only Quash one of the 2 Pokemon. They go for Disable. Okay. That makes sense, but do you survive Choice Band Stomping Tantrum from Dragonite? I wouldn't think so. Yeah. Bye-bye, Regidrago. Okay, so that's obviously a good start for us. I just can't believe Flutterman actually survived a critical hit Tera Blast, but this is really bulky Flutter. It's like almost max HP, basically. Azumarill comes out. I'm very happy to see Azumarill, given that we've got Kleavor in the back, but I'm going to wait for something to faint before I bring it out. So here I'm happy to just Stomping Tantrum into Azumarill and then go for Shadow Ball into it as well. Sableye is not really relevant in terms of damage. We've already seen a couple of his attacks in Fake Out as well as the Disable. Disable on a Dragonite right now is really strong, but the problem is I do not want to switch into either of the Pokemon I have in the back. And Sableye actually switches, which is even better for us. Arcanine has the last one. Okay, Kleavor is so well positioned right now for this endgame against both of these Pokemon because we just Water Tera it, and they're going to take damage just by attacking us. So, Your Shadow Ball. That did so much into Azumarill, honestly. Stomping. Almost just gets the KO. And they just play rough here. Enough for a KO. Cool. Well, this is great because it grants me the free switch into Kleavor that I was looking for. Life Orb Azumarill. It's good to know. So let's bring you out. My opponent's already committed their Tera, so no need to really worry about that. I wonder if they Feint from Life Orb Recoil right now. Because I kind of want to just Tera here and then Stone Axe into Arcanine. Shadow Ball into Azumarill. With Water Tera here, neither of my opponent's Pokemon really should be able to apply too much pressure. The best attack they could do is play Rough Azumarill into the Kleavor slot, but that wouldn't happen if I just KO you with Moonblast first. So Water Tera Kleavor is honestly the perfect Pokemon to have in this endgame. Okay, Azumarill protects. That's totally fine. Shadow Ball into protect. See if they try to like Will-O-Wisp us here. Nope, just Flare Blitz. Excellent. Yeah, so this is cool because now this next turn we can just use Quick Guard with Kleavor. Assuming I hit the Stone Axe here. Nice. Oh, that is so satisfying. Good job, Kleavor. So we get the one-hit knockout there. Set up Stealth Rock, which doesn't really matter too much. But now, because I have Quick Guard, I block all your priority, which is really nice. So we can just bring out Chien-Pao. You know, the one thing I'd be worried about here is something like a Fake Out plus a Play Rough. But I can just Quick Guard to get around your potential Fake Out. And we already know they have Fake Out, right? Like, we saw that earlier. So, click Quick Guard here. And we can just Ice Spinner to KO the Azumarill. Azumarill had protected already, so you can't protect this Tera, and Quick Guard blocks that Fake Out from their end, and then Ice Spinner just KOs Azumarill. So Quick Guard, honestly, a perfect move to have against Sableye here. And it would have been a reason to potentially lead the Kleavor. I just can't believe Fluttermane actually hung on from a critical hit Tera Blast. Like, that is wild, but curious about the item on Regidrago. Like, probably not Choice Specs, you would think, right? So, Azumarill feints. And Quick Guard is a really, really nice move that I feel like people just like don't think about very often in VGC these days. But yeah, let's just X-Scissor. Curious how much X-Scissor does actually just by itself. But they just end up forfeiting. Okay. So yeah, I think ultimately in this game, my opponent tried to go all in with their Steel Tera strategy. Honestly, even if they had gotten that knockout, it would have been fine because I would have just been able to get a free switch into Kleavor. And since we had saw that the Dragonite was faster than the Regidrago, I would have just been able to Quick Guard and then Stomping Tantrum to KO Regidrago. So it's one of the nice things about having Stomping Tantrum on this team because a lot of people are going to go for Fire Tera or Steel Tera to get around the super effective hits from Fairy type attacks, but then you just hit them with Ground type attacks. But Kleavor, they're putting in a lot of work, getting that one hit knockout onto Arcanine, and of course being able to Quick Guard to bypass Sableye in that end game. Okay, this one's interesting. Landorus T, Tinglu, Garganacl, Indeedee, Fluttermane, and Ursaluna. Definitely worried about Trick Room potentially from their end. I think they don't really have like reasonable answers to Ice Spinner, so that's good. Urshifu Surging Strike also looks pretty nice here. Mainly debating if I should be bringing Dragonite, but I think I like leading Flutter because I'm worried about them leading Flutter Indeedee and just setting up Trick Room. Part of me is thinking about Kleavor immediately. Set up Rocks with it. X-Scissor is also really good into Indeedee. Alright, I'm down to give that a shot. And then Chien-Pao, Urshifu in the back, I think. Tornadus is okay. The main thing is I don't think I need to set up Tailwind in this battle, right? And the thing is, if you bring Tornadus into a game where you don't necessarily need to set up Tailwind, it sometimes feels like dead weight because it kind of just stays on the field, especially in this matchup where they have Psychic Terrain from Indeedee. I can't taunt as effectively, right? So Taunt is really useless. Bleak Wind Storm, it's like okay, but it's not really doing that much damage to my opponent, and they honestly have a lot of bulk across the board as well. So it's going to be Tinglu and Landorus to start. Okay. Honestly, I think this is a really good lead for them, so I'm not feeling the best here with this lead matchup. I think a Heavy Slam from this certainly feels likely. So I could just give up the special attack boost and switch into Urshifu. Honestly, don't think that's the worst idea. Only one of these two can Tera, right? So I think I'm going to switch out and then Stone Axe, because I find getting Stealth Rocks up here is pretty valuable. Given that my opponent's team is bulky, I think they have a lot of room to make switches. So feels a little bit bad to switch out Flutter after getting the boost, but I think it's okay here. Lander is actually hard switches out, okay. Fine by me. Into Garganacl. So what's interesting is their whole team right now is weak to Water Urshifu, right? But they're going to commit the Tera here immediately. I'm honestly very happy to see that. With you committing the Tera onto that slot, now I can just Water Tera Urshifu and Surging Strikes into the Garganacl slot, and you can't protect in front of the Urshifu either. Okay, Stone Axe is going to miss here. It's a little unfortunate. But they just go for Heavy Slam, yeah. So that's the downside of Stone Axe. Obviously you can miss, but even with that, it's fine. So Water Tera now. It could be Rocky Helmet Garganacl, I guess. That's my one fear. But I think I just go for the knockout onto him. I'm going to Surging Strikes and then actually just switch out into the Chien-Pao to get the defense drop. So I have the Adamant Nature Urshifu instead of Jolly, the multiplier from Water Tera, as well as the defense drop from Chien-Pao. And this is me just saying, hey, my opponent's team has so many Pokemon that are weak to Urshifu, and you've already committed your Tera. Would have been able to get that Stealth Rock up just for some early residual, but that's okay. Okay. We've got Water Tera Urshifu now. Defense drop and boosted by Water Tera. And they're not Rocky Helmet either, which is also a blessing to see. So that was a really good turn for us. Okay, what is Garganacl, or what does Ting Lu offer? Yeah, they actually went Heavy Slam into the Kleavor slot, so it ends up being a pretty solid turn for them. But that's fine. Landorus in the back doesn't really scare me. And it's Flutter main. Okay. Are you Booster Energy here? If it's not plus speed, and I don't see plus speed, then yeah, we should... Honestly, I think we just sweep with Urshifu here. I'm just going to Surging Strikes and protect. This is how good Scarf Urshifu can be when paired with Chien-Pao, right? This duo is so hyper offensive. And this is why a lot of teams do have something like a Water Tera plus Rocky Helmet, right? And my opponent, basically ended up bringing 3 Pokemon that took super effective damage from Urshifu, and their Tera wasn't a Tera that helps them defensively either. So we get that KO. Good Stomping Tantrum on their end, but that's fine. It's not enough to KO. And yeah, this is just Urshifu showing how good it can be with Water Tera plus the defense drop, right? Tera plus the defense drop are 2 new tools that Urshifu now gets access to. Also, we now play in a format where Dynamax no longer exists, so it's even stronger. So, Surging Strikes. I'm down to just stay in here, honestly. Get the KO onto Landorus. I'll just Ice Spinner that slot too. Because it could be Rocky Helmet. But honestly, Surging Strikes is probably just a 2-hit here anyway. Almost a 1-hit in itself. Jeez. Yeah. So let this be a lesson. You need to have Urshifu answers in this format. And most teams that I've gone up against, I've seen either a couple of Water Teras, for example, or a Rocky Helmet on something. Or just something that naturally resists. But yeah. Cool. In the end, Kleavor not getting that Stealth Rock up didn't really make too much of a difference, but still a nice Pokemon to bring into this matchup, I think, because if my opponent led Indeedee, for example, Kleavor would have been able to punish them super, super heavily. So, just Surging Strikes now, and Stone Axe. So, 3v1, hard to see Ting Lu really pulling it off, but if there's any Pokemon that can't theoretically pull off a comeback like this, it would be Ting Lu. I'm curious if that was Rocky Helmet this whole time. 1 hit. Nope, they just don't have the Rocky Helmet. 2 hits. 3 hits. Excellent. And Stone Axe does connect this time around. And Ting Lu's bulky enough to survive impressively. Okay. But a Feint or an X-Scissor, or really anything, will just finish that off next turn. They actually have Fissure, and they use it and it hits Urshifu, but that's fine. Yeah, it's a little bit too late for that. So we've got Flutter in the back, and Feint not really like super crucial in this position, but it is a really nice move to just finish things off while also obviously being able to bypass Protect. It's a really big deal with this team in particular because you have so much offense, and so being able to like KO something while they're trying to protect and then you double up into that slot gives you so much momentum with this team. So yeah, I think that's the one downside of Kleavor, right? When you click Stone Axe, you might miss. Fortunately, in this game, it wasn't really relevant since we didn't need that residual Stealth Rock damage. The funny thing, though, is with that Stealth Rock damage, it would have just put everything in KO range from a singular Surging Strikes, which is really a testament to how strong Urshifu can be. But yeah, I think in this game, just making sure we didn't get baited with the Flutter Mane and like losing it immediately was a really big deal. And as soon as they committed their Tera to one thing, it just meant I can Surging Strikes everything else, right? And it literally just got a knockout onto every Pokemon with one move, or one turn, I should say. Okay, Amoonguss, Landorus, Urshifu, Zapdos, Flutter, and Tornadus. First time playing against Zapdos in this format. That's going to be pretty common. I expect Rocky Helmet on that. Honestly, I'm thinking this is a Tornadus Kleavor game again. Chimpao, Urshifu. In this one, I'm thinking a little bit more about Dragonite, because if we clear if we clear Flutter Mane, then Outrage kind of demolishes everything. I'm a little bit skeptical of my Flutter, mainly because of Amoonguss and the inability to protect. Like, Imprison Trick Room is not very helpful here. The main thing to imprison would be their Flutter Mane, but yeah, I don't love that. So, it's between Urshifu and Dragonite for the final slot. I'm just really worried about Rocky Helmet Zapdos, and then like it having a pretty good matchup into Urshifu. So I'm gonna go Dragonite here, I think. But you can make a really solid argument for both. Like, I think the most tempting thing about Urshifu is being like, hey, like I have Tailwind, and then after Tailwind with that Choice Scarf, I'm still just outpacing almost everything on your end. There are two problems with that. They could also have a Choice Scarf somewhere, or they could have a Booster Energy on Flutter Mane to boost their speed. Both of those would cause some issues. I think Scarf, not as much of an issue, but Booster Flutter would be a major problem. It's gonna be Zapdos and Landorus. Okay, this is not really that good for me, in my opinion. I think I could just protect turn one into a Stone Axe onto Zapdos and then go from there. Could Tailwind Stone Axe. Protecting here gives me an extra turn of Tailwind. It just puts Kleavor at a little bit more risk. Yeah, I think I want to protect in Stone Axe, but this is kind of scary because they could double up onto Kleavor immediately, and that would be pretty bad. Oh, is it Disquake? That's really bad. Man, it's so funny. That was like the OG VG strategy. Oh, I took so much damage. I mean, I'd probably faint from EQ, honestly, but let's see. Oh, he went for Rock Slide. Does that KO? We hang on one. Kleavor! That's what I get, though. That is really unfortunate. Like, honestly, if I get that Stone Axe off, I actually feel like I'm in really good shape, because breaking potential sashes on everything in the back is really, really good. Do I just give up both Pokemon now, I guess? That sucks. Yeah. The hype of hanging on 1 HP but getting parried and flinched. Okay, I'm gonna just Tailwind here then. And Feint. Who's more likely to carry? I don't think either of these are gonna carry Sash, honestly. But I think confirming if either has Rocky Helmet is important, so I'll target Landorus. Actually did pretty good damage. I could have just gone Tailwind Stone Axe, though, right? If I had gone for that instead, I at least would have gotten the chance to use Stone Axe. I just thought on turn one, like, being able to stagger my Tailwind by a turn while dealing a lot of damage to Zapdos was worth it. And I don't regret that, but yeah. I also don't think I was expecting Discharge plus Earthquake. That is the worst time to get a dodge. Getting 2 free switch-ins there would have been perfect for me, so that's also a little unfortunate. Okay, I'm going to bring out Dragonite. I think finding the comeback here is going to be a little challenging. I honestly want to switch into Chien-Pao and click Outrage here. It's pretty risky, but quite frankly, I feel so far behind in this battle after that turn 1. It's just really risky to lock into Outrage in this endgame, but I just, like, yeah, I'm so far behind. Tornado's not getting KO there was also really bad, because if it's Chien-Pao Dragonite, I can just Ice Spinner one slot and then probably just normal Tera E-Speed the other. Okay, they don't switch out either, so Outrage will just connect onto Zapdos and get a one-hit KO. Oh my goodness. When it rains, it pours. Nothing can go right for us in this game. As Static activates as well. Yeah, and that Rock Slide's just going to do so much to both. And I get crit. Wow. So what's happened in this game? Para turn 1 into Kleavor not being able to attack into them, missing Rock Slide, so Tornadus doesn't attack into a Paralysis from Static. Talk about a chain of events, huh? Still winnable, though, honestly, despite all of that, which is kind of crazy to think about, right? Let's Ice Tera here. If you're my opponent, you might Sucker Punch me, or you could read me into protecting. I think I'm going to go Protect here. Lander switches. Okay, that's fine. And they might just Wicked Blow my Dragonite, though, honestly. That's the safe play. Oh, especially with that. If they end up targeting, like, Sucker Punching Chien-Pao. I don't think they're Sucker Punching Chien-Pao, honestly. I think they're just targeting Dragonite. Oh! Okay, if Outrage goes into Urshifu, there's a shot. Oh, but they're sashed. So that's where the focus sash. That's why I wanted to prioritize Kleavor setting up the rocks so badly. Because if they had fainted there, then Chien-Pao can just outspeed and knock out both of my opponent's Pokemon potentially. Is there any chance of winning this? The problem is I can't KO Flutter Mane. They should just always Sucker Punch into this slot. I could play towards a misplay from my opponent's end, right? And for some reason they don't Sucker Punch. Like, they expect me to Sucker Punch that slot. Yeah, I think I'm going to play towards that, because I'm not going to win this game if they make the correct play here, in my opinion. So I'm going to Ice Tera and just straight up Ice Spinner into this, and then switch out into Tornadus. We're in a position where I don't win if my opponent makes the right play, but yeah, I mean, obviously so many things went poorly for us here, so to be in a position to, like, at least try to find a win, I'll take it. The ideal world here is my opponent gets, like, a little freaked out about me trying to Sucker Punch their Sucker Punch now that I brought them down to Focus Sash. Okay. Yeah, but I got it. Okay, nicely done. That crit earlier was unfortunate as well. I think there was a world where if they didn't crit the Rock Slide onto Chien-Pao, I can just survive Sucker Punch and then just Ice Spinner to KO Flutter. So everything that went wrong in this game basically did. But at the end of the day, when games like this happen, you still have to ask yourself, where could I have improved my play? And I could have just gone Tailwind plus the Stone Axe on turn 1, I think, right? Because I wasn't sure if Kleavor was even going to hang on from that first turn. So doing that at least would have allowed me to move before the potential Paralysis or Flinch chance, right? If you move after your opponent, you just give them the opportunity to crit you or get secondary effects. So that was something I could have done just preemptively. Frankly, they just had a better lead, right? Zapdos Landorus, I didn't really consider too much in Team Preview. I could have gone with something like Urshifu Chien-Pao as an adjustment, or Dragonite Chien-Pao. Tornadus Kleavor was actually probably one of the weakest leads I could have had into my opponent's team. So did I get unlucky? Yeah, but I definitely did not play Team Preview well. I led poorly. My opponent led a lot better than I did. And even in turn 1, I could have made a better play potentially as well. So, yeah. But I am curious how that game would have played out if that turn 1 Stone Axe had connected, because I think it drastically changes the rest of the game. Ooh, this is a cool team. Grimmsnarl, Hands, Hisuian Arcanine, Gastrodon, Roaring Moon, Cresselia. It's really bulky, which scares me. I would love to overwhelm my opponent with offense. We also mainly have physical attackers. I think Flutter... It's going to be important to knock out Grim and only let them get one screen up, in my opinion. I think Flutter is pretty essential as a lead here, because I can potentially imprison Cresselia if they lead with that. I'm worried about Grim Crest lead, honestly. I don't know if Kleavor's correct to bring here. Tornadus feels too passive. I can taunt, but if they have Mentor on Crest, that's bad. And if Grim being Dark typing means I just can't taunt it with Prankster. Kleavor honestly does have really good damage output, especially into Crest. I think I'm actually going to lead it. And then in the back... I probably don't bring Urshifu in this one now that I think about it. See, the main benefit in bringing Urshifu is Surging Strikes with being able to crit through Reflect, but the problem is they're so bulky and they have a Gastrodon in Team Preview, so I think the combination of those scares me a good amount. So, let's see what they go with. Grim and Hisuian Arcanine. Okay. We're gonna have Intimidate here. So I think Moonblast into this is obviously really safe, and we're super bulky with Kleavor. I think they probably set up one of the screens, but I like Moonblasting and then switching out into Dragonite because then I can just extreme speed to finish off Grimmsnarl, and this way they only get one screens up. If you set up Light Screen, well, that's great. Everything else I have is a physical attacker. And if you set up Reflect, fine. Flutter at least should survive turn 1. It can get a big special attack off on turn 2 onto the Arcanine. Unless they go for an offensive Tera here. That would be really bad. Could be a defensive Tera with Grim as well. Wow, it is! Goes Tera Grim. That is very bad news for me. Okay, so they set up Reflect. The problem is now I can't KO them next turn. That's a great Tera. That was a crit and still wasn't enough to KO. It's gonna be Rock Slide. Oof. Okay, that definitely hurts. I am curious how fast their Arcanine is as well. So, we've got Stomping Tantrum here, right? They probably set up Light Screen now. I'm thinking of switching in and then going for Stomping onto Hisuian Arcanine. I played against a Hisuian Arcanine the other day and I Aqua Jetted it on turn 1 and it survived on 1 HP. I don't know how fast it's going to be relative to us, though. If they just outspeed and click Rock Slide here, that's a disaster. Oh, they actually tried a Parting Shot. Okay, cool. Nice, and we're faster. So defense drop now, 4 times super effective. That was such a good turn for me. Excellent. Okay, and the main thing here is that they committed their Tera to a Grimmsnarl. So, while helpful, maybe it helps them set up another screen. In the longer run, me being able to... I mean, the question, though, is who do I Tera at this point? I could Tera Chimpao, I could Tera Kleavor. They bring up Hands, which can obviously fake out. Honestly, I think here just going for Protect and Stomping is fine. Who are they going to have in the back? I think Gastrodon as the 4th certainly makes some sense. Yeah, I think I definitely Protect here. And I just go for Stomping Tantrum onto Hands. This is a great Ghost Tera on turn 1, though. But let's see if I can use that to my advantage now. Okay, nicely done. They do not fake out into the Chimpao. Get Stomping Tantrum off. Is that a crit? Oh, just the defense drop from Chimpao really adding up. Wow, that is so powerful. Great Thunder Punch. Nicely done by my opponent. That was a great turn for them. Okay. This is getting really scary because I think... Oh, man, them having Citrus on hands was the worst possible item. Like, I was fine if they were Assault Vest, but Citrus allowing them to just get Burst Recovery kind of stinks. Okay, I think I just bring out Flutter here, and... Like... I basically want to just Moonblast plus Ice Spinner into it. I think Grim here is going to Parting Shot into Flutter. So I'll be at -1, and they'll have Light Screen set up. So the problem is, I'm not even sure I get the knockout, but I guess I do have Ice Tera here. Does it make sense to Tera anything else at this point? A Water Tera Kleavor does help out against Gastrodon specifically. I don't really care about Roaring Moon or Crest being in the back for my opponent, but I think Gastrodon being the last one is most likely. So I think I do go for the Tera here and just Ice Spinner plus Moonblast. My fear is that the hands actually survives this combo. I think with them setting up screens and potentially Parting Shotting, there's definitely a chance. That last turn was excellent by them, though. You know, no bait into Fake Out. If I had just attacked with Champal there with Ice Spinner, I also would have been fine. So they capitalized off me playing passive with Protect. Well done. Yep, so there's Parting Shot into Flutter. If I had Fairy Tera Flutter, I think I would probably just have Terra'd that instead. So Gastrodon is the last one. Yeah. Okay, this is a huge turn, honestly. Ice Spinner, boosted by Ice Tera. I think I'm going to fall short. Ah, so close. Okay, but they Thunder Punch. That's huge. The fact it was Thunder Punch instead of a Drain Punch means they can't heal, at least, which is a big deal. Problem is, I'm not sure I really win this 2v1 either. 3 turns of Reflect. Ice Spinner into this is really safe. I'd rather X-Scissor instead of Feint here, because they could switch out into Grim. Are we confident X-Scissor KOs? That's my other fear. I think it's smarter to just Spinner here then and Scissor into Gastrodon. But they had Protect. I could have fainted. Yeah. I wonder if Feint would have just won me the game there. Let's see how much X-Scissor does. Oh, that's so much. I think we're probably still fine if it did that much, actually. Just Yawn on Gastrodon. I think Kleavor just cleans up this game. But Feint on that also would have won. I just was really worried about Feint and they switch out into Grim, but I guess why am I worried about Grimmsnarl switching in? What do I have to be concerned about, right? X-Scissor's doing so much, though. It's kind of crazy. Okay. Yeah, this works. I don't think Hands is going to have... I don't think Hands is going to have Fake Out here. And if that's the case, it means I can just click Feint to KO Hands next turn. I just feel like I misstepped this endgame a little bit. I feel like I had a... I don't want to say a guaranteed win, but I was in a super, super good spot. But let's see. X-Scissor into Protect again. Hands comes back out. We've seen Thunder Punch. We've seen Protect. I fall asleep now. So I have Quick Guard if I'm worried about Fake Out here. But a Feint here would just straight up KO the Hands. I'm going to go for Feint. If they actually had Fake Out this whole time, kudos to them. There we go. Let's go, Kleavor. Feint's going to break through that and get the knockout. Perfect. So I'm really, really glad to feature... I feel like we got to feature all of Kleavor in this episode, which I'm very happy about. Like, it was relevant for Quick Guard against Sableye. Obviously, our attacks just do so much damage, and they go for Yawn. Perfect. Okay, yeah, Gastrodon can put things to sleep here, but at what rate? So I'm just going to Ice Spinner here. I think I always click Feint here. I think Gastrodon probably always just, well, yeah, they didn't click Protect, so I actually could have just gone for X-Scissor instead. But it's fine. Like, Chien-Pao is just burning so many turns of sleep for free right now. They power into us. Honestly, though, it was a misplay to Feint there instead of X-Scissoring, I think. But Reflect wears off now. Ice Spinner, X-Scissor. Oh, we do stay asleep. This just got interesting. Yeah, me clicking Feint instead of X-Scissor there actually was a pretty major misplay. Because if they had clicked Protect that turn, then I just burned another turn of sleep with Chien-Pao. But because I ate the 3-turn sleep, now things actually get really interesting. But we managed to wake up. Okay. I figured we were probably okay in this endgame in the long run, but if they had recovered, like, and they recover twice, like, I don't think they're one-shotting the Kleavor, but yeah, this was actually a game in which I, like, pushed my buttons too quickly, and I honestly thought Chien-Pao had already burned all the turns of sleep, so I thought I was guaranteed to wake up next turn, and I wasn't counting that properly. So, because of that, because there was a risk of Chien-Pao taking a 3rd turn of sleep, basically, if I X-Scissor Gastrodon, it just faints immediately. Feint, like, the extra damage I get from it isn't really relevant anyway, and if they protect Gastrodon there, that means no Earth Power into Chien-Pao. That means Chien-Pao is guaranteed to wake up after the 3rd turn of sleep, and that means they don't get 2 Earth Powers off to KO me. So it's always better to just X-Scissor in that position, and that was actually an example of a game where I could have lost if I end up getting, like, max sleep turns with both Chien-Pao and Kleavor. There's no reason to put myself in that position. So, yeah. Either way, though, I am really happy to have featured Kleavor in so many different games today. This Pokemon is absolutely awesome. So thank you so much, as always, for joining me. Thank you to Jaya once again for the team, and I'll see you all next time. All right. Peace.